I appreciate all of you for being here. You know, we have a very important election on May 3rd to choose our next state party chair. And these 7 candidates in front of you have put themselves forward and will be on the ballot next Saturday. This, of course, is our second forum. We're going to have a lively conversation tonight, try to cover as much ground as possible. But before we jump into this, I want to acknowledge the people who made tonight possible. And first of all, give a huge, huge thank you to our dear friends at Grace City Church. Thank you all for your hospitality tonight. All of our welcoming committee out in the forum. It was so nice coming in after canvassing to see these warm smiles and friendly faces. I want to thank Bishop Sherman Scott, who's celebrating a birthday right now, by the way. But Bishop Scott, as you all know, is the president of the Cobb chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Thank you. Sorry, I've been out in the sun for a couple hours. So we want to wish him happy birthday and thank him for helping make this possible. Also, our co-hosts for this evening, chief among them, the Cobb Democratic Committee, Cobb County. Thank you, Cobb County, led by your chair, Essence Johnson. We also have Treasurer Sharon Marshall here with us tonight. Thank you for your leadership. I want to also say a special thank you to other co-hosts, the 4th Congressional District led by Chair Dr. Janetta Puritan. Thank you. Our 11th Congressional District led by Chair Cherie Giordano. I'll get it out. And Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee led by Chair Dr. Beverly Jackson. And our Veterans Military Families Caucus led by Chair Courtney Driver. Thanks all very much for helping pull this together this evening. Okay, before we go any further, I would like to call up retired Air Force and Cobb County extraordinary Democrat, Eustacia McLeod Carter, to lead us in the pledge.
Can everybody rise so we can pay respect to our flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just a few quick announcements before we jump into opening statements. I want to call up Cobb County Democratic Party Chair Essence Johnson to tell us about this really, really big thing that's happening on Tuesday that everybody in Cobb County needs to know about.
Thank you, Matt. It's an honor to be here again. Thank you to Grace City. We have an election in Cobb County. One thing I always say is Cobb County always has something going on. And today, DPG came through. We had over 30 volunteers that canvassed in 2 and 4. And that's amazing. It was hot, but it was a great time. This election that's happening is the first partisan election since 2024. This election could determine the majority on the Cobb Commission Board. And right now, we know there's a lot going on the federal level. The state had challenges, but our local elections is where it matters. We have 2 fabulous candidates. Our current commissioner, Monique Sheffield, who is doing an amazing job, and former state representative Eric Allen, who is doing an amazing job as well. And they wanted to be here, but they are working. We still have a lot of calls to make. We got to get a lot of people out to vote. So if you know somebody in 2 or 4, call them. Tell them there's an election. A lot of people don't even know that there's an election, which is pitiful. Call them. knock on doors, ask the candidates how you can help. It is not over until 7 p.m. on the 29th. So if you want something to do, we can always find you something to do. I am here. We have a lot of state committee members who are part of the Cobb County Democrats. We can put you to work. So again, thank you to the DPG. Thank you to Interim Chair Wilson for his continued support. But we got to win this one. So again, thank you. And then we have 31 municipal. So we have work for y'all to do after this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so for all of you who are sitting here, and definitely all of you who are watching live on YouTube, I want you to think in your head right now, who do I know that lives in Cobb County? And while you're watching this forum, I want you to text them and say, hey, do you have a plan to vote on Tuesday for the Cobb Commission race? Maybe they don't live in District 2 or District 4, but this is going to make them look it up to tell you, oh, I don't live there. So we'll make sure they're covered, okay? So please help us with that. And for our YouTube Live audience, just FYI, in order to add closed captioning, you actually aren't able to enable that during the live portion, but after the video has ended, you'll be able to turn closed captions on when you watch this for a second time. So just keep that in mind. All right. As I mentioned, tonight is the second of 4 forums that we're hosting with the chair candidates. We had our first one in Albany earlier this week, and our next 2 are next week. One on Monday in Toccoa, and then, is it Thursday? Yes. In Statesboro. If you go to our website at georgiademocrat.org/DPG election, you'll have the information for the timing and location for the other 2 forums. You also have the RSVP link if you plan to attend in person, or if you would like to submit a question for these lovely candidates to answer from the stage. Those links are on that webpage. I also want to make sure everyone has marked their calendars for May 20th, our DPG Unity fundraiser. After we get past this chair's election, we're going to have an opportunity for all of us to get back together, raise some money for the party, and celebrate the work that we have ahead. This is a grassroots event, so tickets for this event are $50. We have $25 ticket level for Young Democrats. Also, I should say, we've asked all of our chair candidates to join the host committee for this event. In order to do that, they have a fundraising goal of $5,000. Each of them has their own individual ActBlue link that you can purchase your ticket through if you would like your ticket to go to credit towards them for their host committee requirement. All those links are on our website at georgiademocrat.org/DPG election. Okay, let's go on with the show here. For tonight, let me walk you through the format. It's the same one as we had in Albany, and it's the same one we're going to have in Toccoa and Statesboro. 2-minute opening statements from each of our candidates, and then we will have questions from the moderator, that's me. The questions that I'll be asking have been submitted by all of you previous to tonight, so I'll be asking those questions. Then we will have a portion at the end for our audience members to ask questions if you so choose. And then, of course, we'll give every candidate a chance to give a 2-minute closing statement. So, with that, let's go ahead and get started with opening statements. And tonight we are going to go in alphabetical order, and that means our first candidate is Charlie David.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank you to Grace Church for hosting us here tonight. The Democratic Party, we right now have the lowest approval rating in our history since they've been polling these things. And we have to come to grips with the fact that some of that is about our lost credibility. And so what do we have to do? We got to show to all those people out there, the working people, the folks of our party, because it's not just swing voters to our base, that we're fighting for them. Because here's the thing, we're it. The only hope for working people in this country and in this state is the Democratic Party. The only hope for the expectation that somebody's not going to be snatched off the street in broad daylight, hauled off to God knows where, without a lawyer, without evidence, is the Democratic Party. And so that increases the burden on the state party to do its one job, and it only has one job. That is to elect as many Democrats to as many positions across the state as is humanly possible. And that means that your chair has to do three things. One, raise a tremendous amount of money. And I'm not talking tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars. I have raised over $4 million in my two statewide races. I have a statewide fundraising network to draw from and national fundraising connections. If we don't do that, number two and number three don't matter. Number two, we got to spend that money directly and strategically to elect those Democrats. No more of our people going out there with one arm and two arms tied behind their back while the state Republican Party funds hundreds of thousands of dollars against them and we do nothing. That ends when I'm chair. Number three, we've got to build up our party infrastructure through our county committees, those that already exist and are working and leading the fight day to day, and in our many counties, over 20 that don't have a county committee. We've got to build that so that it's a year-long, 159 county infrastructure. I've worked my entire career to fight for these kinds of things, and I will do that again as your chair. Thank you.
Our next candidate is Hardy Davis. Same last name.
H is before W. But she's my cousin. We tell people that all across the state of Georgia. I'm Hardy Davis, former mayor of Augusta, Georgia, most immediate past mayor, former state senator, former state representative of this great state of Georgia. I've been a lifelong Democrat, raised in rural Georgia, moved to Augusta in 1985. What this party needs today is a chair who's ready to go to work from day one. Person who can operationalize what this party does in terms of elected Democrats from the bottom of the ticket to the top of the ticket. For far too long in the state of Georgia, what we've done is said if we can just win the governor's mansion, everything's going to be fine. We can't do that. North Carolina is an extremely important picture of what that looks like if you just have the governor's mansion and not the legislature. And so as your next party chair, we're going to begin with doing four things first. Number one, you'll hear other candidates talk about this, and that's have a robust year-round infrastructure that allows us to elect Democrats from the bottom of the ticket to the top. That starts with local elections that are happening right now. Municipal elections are taking place and will take place through the end of this year, along with the fact that we've got two candidates that are on the ballot for Cobb County on Tuesday of this week. When we move beyond that, there's a Public Service Commission election that's also taking place. You need an operator from day one so that the person who wins on May the 3rd can go to work on May the 4th, helping us elect Democrats. That's what I intend to do as your next chair. The second thing we want to do is make sure that we bring young Dems to the conversation, not just to sit at the table, but to give them the microphone, because they're the energy of our party today, and they will ignite us to win races in the future. And for far too long, we've allowed them to be volunteers and not equal partners in this conversation. That stops when you elect me as your next party chair. The third thing we have to do is rebrand the Democratic Party of Georgia. On our website, many of you have already looked at this, there's a platform. We've lost sight of that platform. We've lost sight of talking about the things that matter to Democrats across this great state, from Bainbridge to Baxley and all the way to Buckhead. And these are things that require economic opportunity, health care for all, public safety, community policing, things that I've done as the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Hardy. His cousin, Wendy Davis.
Thank you, everyone. And let me thank the people who are our hosts today, particularly our Cobb Chair, S.S. Johnson, who has done yeoman's work in many regards. And I actually want to lift up, too, her team did a beautiful job getting a protest ready when Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to hit Ackworth. And they have done great work, too, making sure that the three people who were inappropriately arrested and jailed, one of them 2 nights, the other 2 1 night, that they're working with the lawyers to make sure they're taken care of. My name is Wendy Davis, and I've spent my adult life actively involved at every level of our party. I learned the ropes as a young Democrat, and the fun thing for me tonight is some of my YD friends are lifelong friends are here tonight. Thank you for that. I've had real leadership roles in my county party for more than 20 years. Been a dedicated member of our state committee, and I lift up the voice of Southern and rural voters as one of your DNC members. I've lived in Rome for 25 years, yet I grew up in Metro Atlanta. And as a professional political strategist, I've worked in every corner of Georgia and across North America. As twice elected city commissioner and Berry College alumni director, I developed a solid record as a transformational leader. And that's what we need. That wasn't 2 minutes, was it? Okay, thanks. That's why I have the notes, so I'm faster. I take pride in finding common ground and building lasting relationships while standing firm on our progressive values. I'm a collaborative, strategic, and results-driven leader, and these are the qualities we need to build a stronger, more unified, and more effective Democratic Party of Georgia. For far too long, we have left our county committees, affiliates, caucuses, and councils without support or even encouragement. We've recruited candidates with empty promises and let our incumbents make their own way without bringing them into the huddle. We must learn from these mistakes and painful losses. With this new chapter of our party, we must, I'm going to finish this one sentence, convene regularly to plan and track progress, connect across current divides, collaborate, bringing innovative ideas and new leaders forward, transforming our party into the battle-ready team that will flip the PSD seats this year and be ready for 2026.
Thank you, Wendy. Our next candidate is Nikita Hemingway.
Good evening. My name is Nikita Hemingway. I am a 5th-generation farmer and entrepreneur. I was the 2020 Democratic nominee for House District 104 and the 2022 Democratic nominee for Commissioner of Agriculture for our state. One of the reasons I decided to step up and put my name in the hat for this seat is because the changes we need to see in the state of Georgia begins within our party. We have to build a coalition that recognizes not just every corner of the state, but every member in our party. For far too long, the strategy has been, let's raise a lot of money, let's fly in the best strategizers for all over the world, instead of using the leadership we currently have within our party. Nobody knows your community better than you. And I am driven to not only build our party from the ground up, but to invest in the leaders that are currently here and the leaders that we see to build our party in the future. I look forward to the next 4 years of hitting the ground running because we know no matter what happens today, we must flip this entire state in 2030 or we will be behind for another decade. If you remember nothing, remember that Nikita Hemingway is in this fight because she's betting on you, and I'm asking you to bet on me. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikita. Next, Jay Jones.
Good evening to everybody. I'm glad that everybody before me gave the introduction so I don't have to go into the PSC race and all other stuff like that. But I do want to say that my name is James J. Jones. And the one thing that I can say is in our last conversation in Albany, I talked about the car. And that car is consistency, accountability, and reliability. And so we need a chair that's going to be able to drive the car. Driving the car is very important because you know what? A lot of times we think we throw money at a car, throw paint on the car, make a car look good, it's going to make that car run better. But it's not. A lot of times we talk about the engine of the car and we say we're going to fix that car. And we put things to try to fix it, but it doesn't get fixed. And we get left in the cold. I am here as the experienced leader on this stage. I have been a POSI holder in the bottom. I have been a chair of a county committee. I am a current congressional district chair. I sit on the executive board, the bylaws committee. I understand how the party works. Yes, we have our indiscretions, we have our issues within the party, but we need sound structure to move our party forward. We need to include those who are not at the table to move our party forward. If we're not willing to talk to the least of these, we're not going to move anywhere. And we have to be consistent, accountable, and reliable to the citizens we want to provide a Democratic Party to. My name is James Jones, and I am the driver of that car. And you give me the opportunity to lead, I promise you, we will take the Democratic Party where it has not been before. Because this party existed in Georgia in 1833 before the party even existed across the United States of America. So vote for me as far as the chair of the party, and I will deliver. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Our next candidate is Nabila Islam Parks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm State Senator Nabila Islam Parks. I'm the daughter of working-class immigrants who came to this country seeking the American dream. I'm a twice elected state senator. I've fought close races and I've won. But prior to being an elected official, I was a Democratic campaign organizer and a fundraiser. I was a national fundraiser for Secretary Hillary Clinton when she ran for president, and I was a fundraiser for the DNC under Chairman Tom Perez. I have raised over $50 million to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And I'm also an organizer. In 2020, I helped my county party raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and put together a GOTV plan of sending out 100,000 mailers to low propensity voters, effective Facebook ads, and a voter protection plan. And I'm running for DPG chair because now more than ever, we have to fight back, we have to be bold, we have to be aggressive, and we have to be loud, and we need a plan. Here's what I'm proposing. I will use my fundraising skills to build a top-tier fundraising apparatus to raise tens of millions of dollars in federal and non-federal dollars to re-elect Senator John Ossoff and flip the governor's election and elect Democrats up and down the ballot. We also need to implement a field program like the likes of the Wisconsin Democratic Party. We have the same talent and resources here, and we can build it out here. And also, we need aggressive candidate recruitment. Under my leadership, I will make sure that we contest House Republicans and Senate Republicans, that we have as many Democrats running for office, but that we also train them and give them the resources they need to be competitive. I look forward to sharing more of my plan with you. And again, I'm State Senator Nabila Islam Parks, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. And finally, Elena Sanders.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not going to stand before you and give you fluff. Democratic Party needs a strategy. We haven't strategized over years. If we look at the Republican Party, they have a whole entire playbook. They told you what they were going to do. They can look at it, see it, feel it, and have researched it for many years. But the Democratic Party cannot even combat their playbook. Why? Because we are so far behind the game. We don't even know what's going to happen in June for the election that is coming up in June for the Public Service Commission. We do not have a plan. We have 400,000 people about to be purged from the voter list, and where is the plan? Do we know how many are Democrats? Do we know how many are Republicans? Do we know how many we are going to save? We have to do the work. As a college professor, you know I do research. And I will take that opportunity to make sure I know what the problem is. The issue is we have a lot of solutions, but we don't know the problem. As you know, as a doctor, he'll give you pills to relieve the symptom, but he never got to the root of the problem. What is the reason why we don't have representation in all of the counties? We have 159 counties, and all of them are not represented on the state committee. What is the problem? Why those Democratic Party committees are not active? We need to go out, have the town halls, and talk to the people in those areas, as well as connect with those who are doing the work. There are a lot of organizations that align with the principles and the magnitude of the Democratic Party, and we are not realizing their resources. We can build together and make sure we are electing the people that we need to elect. I have fundraised, I have organized, I have worked on campaigns where we have state reps right now who are elected. I have done all the work, but the issue is not giving you just my credentials. It's telling you what I can do for you and how we're going to get to the next level. It's very important that we have a strategy here in the Democratic Party, that we are training those individuals, making sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable who are not aligning with the Democratic Party network. And I am Elena Sanders.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you, candidates. Okay, let's jump into our first question here. And this comes from a Cobb County State Committee member. And we'll start with Elena. Can you define your strengths and weaknesses? And this will be 1 minute.
One of my strengths would be, of course, I told you that I'm a college professor. I teach operation management, marketing, and so forth. Public relations definitely is my strength, as well as fundraising. So my strength would be is that I can get out, connect with those organizations, make sure we get the money that we need, having those conversations with those who are our donors right now, and making sure they continue to donate, as well as those who are on the list who have not donated at all. We need to make sure we get to the conversation and talk about what the issue. I wouldn't say that I would have too many weaknesses, although we have, because my weaknesses become strengths. I look at those various things that I'm not doing right and try to make them great. Because we have to look at that. So you don't think of it as a weakness, you think of the things that you cannot do right now to perfect them. So those are my two various things.
Thank you. Charlie, same question.
Well, for my weaknesses, my wife is here, so y'all can ask her. I'm sure she'll give you a laundry list. And for my strengths, my mother is here. You can ask her about all the wonderful things. The strengths, I mean, I would guess so. I've spent my career, after I was a political staffer and organizer and that kind of thing, I went to law school. So I spent my career, whether that's in the civil justice system or the criminal justice system as a prosecutor, using evidence to convince somebody, i.e. a jury or a judge, to do something. And if you think about it, that's essentially what a campaign and political communication is. You're using your evidence to convince the voters to back your side, to back your candidates. I've done that with a great amount of success in my career. I think I'm a pretty nice person. I think I'm a pretty good listener. Again, talk to my wife on how good those listening skills are. But I think I'm somebody that relates well with people, and I hear what they're saying. Doesn't mean we're always going to agree. But my mother raised me to treat people with respect, and I do that. And then my weakness is I talk too long. So.
Thank you, Charlie. Nabila, same question. Strengths and weaknesses, please.
Well, I'll speak to this position that we're all applying for. I would say a big strength of mine is being a major dollar fundraiser. I have fundraised for the national party. I've fundraised for a state party. Actually, I work for the Florida Democratic Party. They hired me to be their finance director. And I've also raised money for a county party. So I know how to do that. I've raised money for myself, $1.5 million, but I know how to raise institutional dollars. I'll also say that I shoot my shot. And when I see opportunities to hold Republicans accountable, I go for it. When Republicans were playing shenanigans last year with our election board, I asked the governor to do an investigation. And when he refused, I sued him. Okay? I sued him because he needed to do his job, and I did that because it was the right thing we needed to do, and it was the bold thing to do. I've also asked our insurance companies, right now we have high insurance prices, and I asked for an investigation of our insurance commissioner. I would say weakness, I talk too long too. So
Thank you, Nabila. Hardy, same question. Strengths and weaknesses.
Key strengths are one, risk-taking, the ability to listen to the details and see things that other people don't see. A truth teller, someone who's committed to the process, particularly when it relates to the work at hand that we're doing. Weaknesses will be blind spots that I don't know about. There are things as a leader, and I've led at multiple levels. I've led at the city level, I've led at the state level, I've led a small business, I've led at the church level, which is perhaps the hardest job that anyone can have in the world. And so those are the things that I would say strengths, weaknesses. An additional strength would be the ability to bring people together. I have an innate ability to bring people together across all walks of life, Black, brown, Asian, Latino. I've demonstrated that both at the local level and at the state level to be able to get incredible things done that make people's lives better. And those are the things that are critical for us from a party perspective, particularly where the chair is concerned.
Or is this Trump's latest executive order? Jay, same question. Strengths and weaknesses.
Thank you, Chair. My strength is I meet people where they are with my car. My weakness is I believe in people more than they believe in themselves sometimes, and they'll let you down. Because of my strength, and because I like to meet people where they are, I try to strive to be consistent, accountable, and reliable. No matter if they're going to fail me or they're going to do me right. Because if we're not taking care of people, people are not going to buy back into the party. And my other weakness is I talk too much, but I'm not going to let that alarm catch me, so I'm going to turn the mic over.
Thank you, Jay. Wendy, same question.
Thank you, Jim. My strength in terms of this position is I have a depth and breadth of experience with the party that is unmatched. If there's something the party has to do, I've either done it in a professional capacity or as a volunteer. And I've been a volunteer for the party since the late 80s. Weakness could be I'm a change agent who at times has not understood that you really have to let people understand the change before you make it. And that's a lesson I've learned. But there are times when people are like, you do too much, you're too tough, you're just charging ahead, getting things done. Yes, I do. And I've learned that you gotta get people charging with you. And that's what I plan to do when we change the culture of the party, to understand that if we don't have a strong foundation, doesn't matter how many millions we raise, we're not going to be as successful as we could be.
Thank you, Wendy. Nikita, same question.
Thank you. My strengths are that I'm a coalition builder. In 2022, when I ran for the state ag commission race, I raised $58,000. And I amassed 1.7 million votes. And that was rooted in grassroots having a strategy to win, to show up in all 159 states across the Georgia. But I didn't just focus on my election. I focused on the people that I brought into the fold. I elevated young Democrats to work on my campaigns, to lend me their ideas, and we put them into play. We weren't afraid to experiment with the opportunities that were in front of us, because the only thing that we knew would fail us is not trying. And my weakness is I love this state. And I refuse to sit by and let us lose another race. I refuse to be silent and know that there are systemic problems within our party, systemic problems within our state, and we need leaders who are willing to work and build a coalition.
Thank you, Nikita. I failed to mention this earlier, but I want all of you to know these questions have not been shared with the candidates ahead of time. They don't know what order I'm going to be calling on them. That's why you may see them, their eyes looking around. Not every question will be asked to every candidate, but I'm going to ensure that every candidate has equal time tonight, and that they have an equal opportunity to talk about the same topics as we move through. So let's move to our second question. And this one is going to start with Nabila. Nabila, this question comes from our DEI committee that's a co-host for this event tonight. Statistics show a staggering number of registered black male voters did not vote in the 2024 election. More than 35,000 here in Cobb County alone. What will you do to re-engage these voters and get them to the polls in 2026 and beyond? Let's say 2025, 2026, and beyond.
Well, I would say, so my husband is a black man, and during the presidential election, I did not see a lot of outreach coming to him. Actually, I saw a lot of outreach coming from Donald Trump's campaign reaching out to black men. We need to meet black men where they are and make sure that we're communicating with them, reaching out to them, calling them, engaging with them, listening to the issues that they care about, and making sure we show up about those issues and put together solutions. Also, we need to send out mailers to black voters, black men. We need to, here's the thing, in the Democratic Party, I'll just say this, is we take our black voters for granted. We do, and we don't earn their vote. And we need to earn their votes just as much as we try to earn everybody else's, because they are the backbone of this party. And if we're gonna make up votes anywhere, it's in the black community, because they show up. And they show up every single election. I think over 90% of black women voted for Kamala Harris. 92%.
Thank you, Nabila. Charlie, same question. What will you do to engage black male voters and re-engage black male voters and get them to the polls this year, next year, and beyond?
I think this goes to that credibility thing, the low approval rating that we have across the country and in the state. And that's not just swing voters. A lot of that is in our base. And a lot of that in our base is black voters, and a lot of that is black men. You know, I think sometimes we have lost focus on what the core to being a Democrat is, and that is fighting for working people. I mean, the idea that you can have Republicans in this state engage in what they are engaged in to line the pockets of billionaires and big corporations and not support working folks, the vast majority in my conversations, and the polling backs this up, and the data backs it up, the vast majority of black men in this state principally are worried about, is my kid safe, how to do it in school, if I get a hospital bill, can I pay it? We can't talk about what we have done in the past. The New Deal and Medicare and Medicaid, all those are wonderful things. We gotta have a plan now for folks to have economic opportunity in the black community.
Thank you, Charlie. Wendy, same question.
Thank you. We have a connection problem. And our friends from the DEI committee referenced that we're disconnected from African American men. We are. We're lucky we're not disconnected from African American women. And they're right, they voted 92%, or we would be lost in worse ways than we're lost now. We're disconnected from young people. We're disconnected. It feels like some days more places than we're connected, which is why we have to be intentional. We have to do the work. And that means we have to get people together who have common issues and interests and listen and get the trusted voices to reach those different communities. And with African American men, we have some fabulous African American men here on this stage who are leaders. And they know, and African American men in this audience who are leaders, we need to take their wisdom and their energy and have them help us start getting connected and grow those connections.
Thank you, Wendy. A similar question, Nikita, we're going to start with you. This question also comes from our DEI committee. Georgia's Latino population is growing rapidly every year, but outreach to this community is underfunded and not prioritized by party leadership. How would you change that and get more Latino voters to turn out?
Great question. So the answer is, we don't focus on Latino voters alone. We focus on building the entire state, bringing everyone into the conversation. And to do that, you must understand the dynamics of who makes up the population in the state of Georgia. Many of the Latinos that I know feel disconnected and unheard when they're business leaders and organizers just within their own communities. They own radio stations and coffee shops. We've got to stop looking at them just like we've got to stop looking at black men and black women as if we're single issue voters. They want the same economic opportunities as we do. When we send out literature and messaging, we need to make sure that we're sending messages in their native tongue on their radio stations. We're sending postcards in their native tongue, and we're sending organizers that look like them into their community. And then finally, we promote them into positions. We get them elected. If you want to build a state that really is representative of everybody, promote them in leadership.
Thank you, Nikita. Elena, same question.
The first thing we have to do is converse with our Latino individuals. As a person who is African American and Latino, I understand. We only go to them when it's election time. And they're saying to us, why am I important now when you haven't talked to me throughout the year? We need to utilize our caucuses, Latino caucus, African American caucuses, and use them throughout the year to find out what the problem is, get to the root of the problem. We have to go to those communities and find out what they need and what they want and make sure legislation is in place that support all of those communities. If we're constantly just reaching out to them to get their vote and they feel they're not important, they are the majority of the population. If you look at the economic development as well as the spending power in the United States of America, Latinos are at the top of the list. So why are we not reaching out to those who are funding our economic development in this community, in their state, and making sure that they are part of the conversation and not behind the ball game who only need their vote? We have to include them in the conversation, find out what they want, find out what they need, and don't only connect with them through election time.
Thank you, Elena. Jay, same question. What are your ideas on how we can prioritize Latino outreach and get more Latino voters to turn out?
Great question, Chair. First off, Chair Jackson, I appreciate you bringing this up to the game. Because as we drive that car, consistent, accountable, and reliable, we have to be consistent, accountable, and reliable to the Black people and the white people and the Hispanic population and every population to get the job done. The question was dealing with that piece right there. First off, we have to identify where our Hispanics live. Gwinnett County is the largest county in the state of Georgia, where most of your Hispanics live. Throughout the rest of Georgia, you have sporadic conversations of that. We have to find these people, message to these people, and let them know we care about these people. We don't bring the time when we need them, we bring the time when we don't need them. Because right now is the time we need to talk to everybody, because diversity, equity, and inclusion is the top conversation in the White House, and it's being dressed all the way down, and people are scared that ICE is going to come and take their homes and take everything from them. So we must be able to stand up and talk to those people.
Thank you, Jay. Hardy, same question.
I think it starts first and foremost with credible voices. One of the things that I did in Augusta is I went to the pastors, I went to the farmers, I went to the business owners who were Latino and brought them into the conversations that allowed me to help move Augusta forward. We've got to scale that across the entire state of Georgia. Yes, Gwinnett County has more Latinos perhaps than anywhere else, but we've also got to remind our Latino as well as our Black counterparts of what's been done before from Democrats. We've got to remind them that we stood with you when it came to dreams. We stood with you when it came to making sure that your children were able to remain in the United States and in our communities of interest. That's what we failed to do in a consistent way all across the state of Georgia, whether it's our Latino community or whether it's bringing our Black men back into the conversation with credible voices, not to ask for their vote, but to ask what matters to you, what matters to your children, what matters to your families, and those are the conversations that we quite frankly need to be having now and not waiting until 2026 to re-elect John Ossoff, but conversations right now.
Thank you, Hardy. Okay, for this next question, we're going to continue with 1 minute, 1 minute for each candidate to answer this question. This comes from Sarah, and others have asked this. Please describe what your direct involvement with the state party and your county party has been prior to running for chair of this organization. Charlie, we're going to start with you.
So I started my involvement as a young Democrat at the University of Georgia. Became political director of the Young Democrats. Then I was a member of the Athens-Clarke County Party for all the years that I tried to stay in Athens as long as I could through law school and everything, 2 years in between. And I worked in Democratic politics in that time as well. I was a political director of a congressional campaign in the old 12th district. I was political coordinator for the last Democratic Lieutenant Governor Mark Taylor in 2005, 2006 in his governor's campaign. And then I was the campaign manager of a congressional race in the old 10th, very involved in all of the counties throughout the state in those races. And of course, as a statewide nominee, have attended, I don't know if I've attended the most, but I've attended quite a few county party meetings and helped everywhere I could in that respect. I've also served as pro bono attorney for 5 local board of election members, Democratic appointees fighting against the state election board. That's my service.
Thank you, Charlie. Nikita, same question.
So I've served as co-seat holder of Gwinnett County for 2 years, and that was from 2022 to 2023. I am now the interim co-chair of Walton County Democrats. We're going through reformation. Last June, Sarah Todd reached out to me when she recognized that I had moved into that county, and she asked me to step in so that the party could stay intact and continue to have a voice. So when the election came around in 2024, I was the person that worked with Liz Barrett for Walton County to ensure that we had a voter protection program, to ensure that our votes were counted fairly. We had eyes on the ground. And in case you guys did not know, Walton County was one of the sweet stories that came out in 2024 because we shifted through blue by 3.3 points, and we still got more building to do. I've even recruited my neighbor to run for county commission in our district because it's flippable. And I'm the vice chair of Congressional District 10. I meet with Wendy and Jay Jones constantly
Thank
about
you.
issues in our party.
Thank you, Nikita. Wendy, same question.
In grad school, I joined the Young Democrats. I was an officer in the state Young Democrats, an officer in my county Young Democrats in Fulton County, became president of Fulton County Young Democrats, became president of the state Young Democrats. When I was also involved in the main Fulton County party and was a founder of the North Fulton Democrats. When I moved to Rome in 1999, I joined the Floyd County Democrats. The next year I became an officer, and I was an officer in the Floyd County Democrats until about 5 years ago or 6 years ago when I was like, somebody else, y'all need to learn. I can't, my being here is not letting y'all learn. So, but I stayed actively involved. If you've seen the letter from our county chair, he calls me frequently. I've done the work that needs to be done. I've been on the state committee since 2002, been on the executive committee since 2012 when I was elected to the DNC. At the DNC, I don't just show up, I participate, and I could go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Elena, same question.
Thank you so much. I'm actually glad you asked this question. I have been a Democrat, and as well as I'm a former commissioner, ran on the Democratic ticket. I am also the president of the 13th Congressional Federation of Democratic Women. But I also want to say this, and I'm going to speak very candid to it. The local committees need to be revamped. You have many who have been a part of the Democratic Party for years and have been members of the committees, but they have issues that need to be heard and they don't need to be ignored. That's one reason why I stepped into this race. I saw dysfunctionality. I saw things that were not done. Instead of talking about it and complaining about it, I want to solve the problem, just like when I ran for office. So I've always been involved in the Democratic issues as well as Working Family Party. I'm a grassroots organizer and started the Newton County Wolfpack, where we hold elected officials accountable to make sure those who are sitting in the seats running on a Democratic ticket are actually voting on Democratic lines. And if they're not voting on Democratic lines, we speak up and we hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Hardy, please tell us your direct involvement with the state party and county party prior to running for chair.
My direct involvement with the Richmond County Democratic Party was under the leadership of Laurel Greenbaum, who many of you know in this room. When we moved to Augusta, got involved in the Democratic Party, worked for a number of candidates there. The late Edward J. Tarver, former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Georgia, and State Senator Charles Walker, and a host of others. I attended several state conventions and served also as a delegate to the DNC. My most important work has been getting Democrats elected from a state party perspective, from the bottom of the ticket to the top of the ticket. Commissioner George Johnson trained him before he was ever elected. He is the chair of our Richmond County Democratic Party in Augusta, Georgia. That's the work that I've been doing and will continue to do, notwithstanding having written checks to make sure that our local Democratic Party has resources when it needed it. The same thing that we'll do in raising money as well as writing checks for the state party as well.
Thank you. Jay, same question.
My involvement with the party, I'll be real quick with this. Driving that car, consistent, accountable, and reliable. I was the chair of Chatham County Democratic Committee. As the chair of Chatham County Democratic Committee in 2020, we flipped Chatham County and made the whole county blue, number one, in a 60% majority Democratic city in county. The second part is I moved up through the ranks and I became the chair of the First Congressional District. I took that same energy in Chatham County and I transferred that energy amongst the 15 counties in the First Congressional District. We also got our first win in a red county, McIntosh County, where we flipped a Republican sheriff and we now have a Democratic sheriff in that space. I also work within the 1st Congressional District like candidates like Tyrone Johnson, who ran for mayor of Jessup, Georgia. We also got tons of people in the 1st Congressional District starting to run because guess what? We have energized, we have motivated, and we have gotten people involved. We have to make sure we have leadership that has that kind of mentality.
Nabila, same question. Direct party involvement at the state party and county party.
So in 2013, I rechartered the Gwinnett County Young Democrats and served as president. And in 2020, as I mentioned, I've helped put together a program where we strategically reached out to low propensity voters. And I did that with my county party, and we were very successful. And that was the year, guys, that we flipped Georgia blue. And it made me realize how underutilized our county parties are. And that's why as chair, I will make sure that our county parties have financial resources, and they have trainings, and that they're included in our strategic plan. When we put together the voter protection program, where we got over 200 poll watchers in critical precincts, I worked with the state party in the voter protection program, and we put that together. And so I have experiences as a young Democrat, I'm working at my county party, and I've showed up with the state party as well. And those are all my experiences with our county party and state party. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. This next question is also going to be for every candidate, so we'll do 1 minute, and let's start with Jay. Jay, what, if any, structural changes are needed at the Democratic Party of Georgia to ensure we're doing all we can to hold Republicans accountable at the ballot box?
I think the first thing we need to do, and it was alluded to earlier, is we need to make sure that we're going into those counties that do not have committees. It is stressed to be important that we make sure everybody, all 159 counties, are at the table before we can even have that conversation. That's consistent, that's accountable, and reliable. We have to make sure that we're presenting that as a united front, because we're losing elections statewide by 100,000 votes. That 100,000 votes is in rural Georgia and metro Georgia. It's not just in one area, it's in both areas. We have to have a candid conversation to bring everybody to the table and make sure we identify our weaknesses and turn those weaknesses into strengths.
Elena, what, if any, structural changes do we need to make at DPG to ensure we hold Republicans accountable?
The first change we need is communication. The information from the Democratic Party is not being disseminated down to the local committees. We have to have a strategy. I'm going to keep saying it every day and all day. We do not have a playbook. We don't know where we're going from here, there, or wherever we're going. We have to make sure we are electing the right people in place to keep this moving. And the main thing is we have to get those members who have left the Democratic Party to believe in the Democratic mission and the values. We have so many individuals who don't believe anymore in the values of the Democratic Party. And in order to do that, we have to make sure the communication, we have to rebrand ourselves to say that we are here. Also providing a safe space for elected officials to come to be able to back them and know that when they are in the trenches and they need assistance, the Democratic Party is there to stay, showing up in their blue, backing all the issues that we need to back. As a lobbyist at the Capitol, I'm going to be honest, I only got to do is be transparent. I very rarely saw the Democratic Party. And we have to make sure we are present.
Wendy, same question. What, if any, structural changes would you make with the state party?
I think cultural change is a higher priority than a structural change. Part of our problem is we aren't fully utilizing the structure we currently have. And more importantly, we're not freeing all the leaders, the people in this room, the 317 people on the state committee. All we ever ask them to do is show up at a meeting. People want to work. We have to get everybody pointed forward and give them the support, the funding, and the opportunity to get together. We have a strategic plan, and it was a good process, but then it was put on a shelf. We've got to be thinking strategically and taking that strategy down to the foundation of our party, which is our county committees, who have been left to their own devices in too many ways from the larger herd. That it will help us with all these problems we have tactically, communication problems, etc.
Thank you, Wendy. Nabila, same question.
We need to hold Republicans accountable. And the way that we do that at the DPG is we need to beef up our communications. The DPG is the attack dog. We need to come after Republicans every time they commit a crime, misdeed, or passing just horrible laws at the state legislature. And we need to do that by making sure we have a 24/7, 365 war room. We have rapid response, whether it's press conferences, press releases, or social media. And we make sure that we're doing this as aggressively as possible. Look, a lot of the complaints are the Democrats don't fight back hard enough. They're silent. What are they doing? We need to be fighters. And we need to fight for our communities, and we need to be loud about it. And so those are some of the changes I would make at the DPG is give our comms department some more juice and resources to do their jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Nabila. Nikita, same question.
In 2020, we saw the power of putting our egos aside, getting everybody's hands on deck and working when we elected Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff to the Senate. We had another candidate on that ballot in the runoffs, Daniel Blackman, and he lost his race by 34,000 votes. And now we have gone for the past 4 years without a PSC candidate or a PSC representative that is a Democrat. We understand what it takes to win in the state when we set aside our egos and we just do what needs to be done. I believe that our strategic framework should not be something that we treat as a playbook or something that we check every 2 years. It needs to be a living framework. If any of you are NBA fans, you know that sometimes the game-winning shot happens within the last seconds of a game. And what happens? The coach comes out on the court. He pulls out his drawboard and he adjusts the play. We've got to be able to adjust our plays in real time, and that is how we win.
Harvey, same question. What, if any, structural changes are needed in the state party?
I think we've got to communicate better across the entire state of Georgia about what Republicans are doing. That's problem number one. But from a structural standpoint, the DPG has to change its focus. Until we win legislative seats, Republicans are going to run amok in the state of Georgia. Until we get the 29 in the Senate, until we get the 91 in the House, we're going to be told what to do, when to do, and how to do as Democrats and as people in this great state. And so from a structural standpoint, our focus has to be bringing a strategic plan forward that then allows us to win Senate seats and turn that number to 29 instead of 23, and that number to 91 instead of about 82 people in the legislature from a House perspective. We can communicate, and we have to do that. We've got to do it exceptionally well and talk about Republicans, what they're doing in this state of Georgia, but we've got to win legislative seats. Without us doing that, we don't change the conversation. Republicans continue to do whatever they want to do. They strip our Medicaid away, they take our health care, and they take opportunities for good Georgians.
Finally, Charlie, what, if any, structural changes need to happen in the state party?
For everything I'm about to say, it's going to require communication and coordination with our county committees, so they're not sitting out there wondering what it is we're doing. They should not be wondering about that. But Nabila is right. We've got to build out a professionalized research department that is then leading to that rapid response. This research department that is holding all these jackballs down at the General Assembly and these idiots in Congress, these Republicans, accountable for everything they're doing. We can't assume the voters are going to know that. We have to tell them that across all mediums, including all these new mediums, podcasts and TikTok and all the rest. We got to be creative in our communication. But we also, Artie is correct, we've got to spend a tremendous amount of money to flip these seats. Last year, we let our people out there, whether it's Susie Greenberg or Tangi Herring, out there fighting by themselves as the Republican Party spent hundreds of thousands of dollars against them. When I'm chair, that ends. We are going to hammer these people. And I can't promise you we win every seat, but we'll win most of them.
Okay, for this next question, let's do a show of hands. All the candidates on the stage here. How many of you are committing to join us on May 20th for the Democratic Party of Georgia Unity fundraiser? Okay, all right. We're all going to be there. All right, next question. How many of you, show of hands again, if you do not win the chair election this time, are committed to continuing to work for our state party, whether that's in a formal role or not? Just show of hands. Okay. All right, good. So we're all committed for the long haul here. Okay. This next question is about messaging. We've heard a lot about messaging already tonight. While Democrats' most loyal voters are those over 65, Republicans seem to be attracting more young voters, especially between ages 18 to 30. What will you do to bring younger voters to the Democratic Party and keep them engaged? Let's start with Hardy.
I'm going to be the car, consistent, kind of relatable. I said it on Monday of last week, I said it in Albany, and I'll say it again. Until we bring young Dems into this conversation and make them equal partners and not volunteers, and until we bring young Democrats into this conversation and don't just give them a seat at the table, but give them the microphone and say, here's what we should be doing right now to energize young voters, we're going to continue to lose in that space. Yes, there's Instagram, I have an Instagram account, yes, there's TikTok, Snapchat, and all of those things, but let's bring the people who are having those relatable and credible conversations forward so that they can be representatives of the Democratic Party and not just people who we use as volunteers during campaigns. That's a good place to start.
Elena, same question. What will you do to bring younger voters to the Democratic Party and keep them engaged?
Thank you so much. I'm actually doing that now before I even decided to run for chair of the Democratic Party. I partner with the Young Dems. Well, the president of the Young Dems and I have come together with a conference called Lead to Change, empowering our young youth from ages 14 to 25, creating new leaders, engaging them in the political arena, and informing them how this works, even showing them parliamentary procedures and various other things. We have to meet our youth where they are. As a social media professor, one of the things that I teach is social media marketing. Our youth are on social media. We have to do better with connecting with them where they are and getting the message out to them, involving them in the conversation, and also letting them know that they can lead. They can be the next commissioner. They can be the next state rep. They can be the next state chair. We have to make them know that they are the ones that are coming up next, because we can't sit in these seats forever. We shouldn't be. We cannot sit in these seats forever. So we have to make sure that we involve them in the conversation, know exactly what they want and what they need in order to bring them in this party. Thank you.
Wendy, same question. What will you do to bring younger voters to the Democratic Party and keep them engaged?
So we have an amazing set of young leaders all across the state. Some of them are leading our county parties. All the people in the Young Democrats who are doing great things, growing their chapters, growing the Young Democrats of Georgia, we have to let them lead this outreach. We have to lead in this, let them lead in the strategy. Let them show us where their peers are, where we're missing them. And part of our problem is we keep trying to reach voters like we're trying to recruit members. We don't need voters necessarily. I'd love more of them to come. We don't need them coming to a Thursday night meeting, right? But we need them understanding that the values that we live by and the policies we implement will make their lives better. We know that to be true. None of them know that to be true. So we have to show it because they don't know it. And until we're doing that where they are and from people whose voices they hear, we're not going to be successful.
Thank you, Wendy. Similar question, but slightly different. Nabila, we're going to start with you. Excuse me. The press is always very quick to report that Democrats are in disarray. And there seems to be no shortage of Democrats in Georgia willing to give reporters spicy quotes to carry those stories. What will you do to encourage more unity among our party faithful, especially before we have statewide nominees to all relevant.
Talk about the mission. We have to flip seats. We have to make sure that John Ossoff is reelected, that we need to make sure that we flip the governor's mansion and that we elect as many Democrats up and down the ballot. We gotta flip these seats. And as far as unity goes, we can't be seen fighting outside in the public, right? This is a family, and if we have internal problems, let's fix this now. Because what's happened is a lot of folks I've spoken to, no one's been listening to them, or they've voiced concerns and now they're just resentful. Let's not get to that place. Let's find out, I would like to do an assessment at the state party and find out, what are we disgruntled about? What is not working? What have you not been able to do? And be able to give you the resources and be able to give you the things that you need to do, that you need to be successful. And so I would encourage unity on that front, because if the ship, if everything's working on the ship, then we should be fine and no one's going to be leaking spicy quotes, but we really need to listen to folks.
Nikita, same question.
So here's gonna be an unpopular truth, but if we rip off the Band-Aid now, we can begin to heal. We've forgotten who we are. We pit personal ambition against the mission, when in reality, we're all on the same team. We have incredible, amazing talent within our party. Let's elevate people and give them the opportunity to serve and give the best of themselves. And when we do that, when we remember who we are, understanding that we all are fighting for our families, our communities, and our dreams, we won't have our problems aired in the street, because there won't be any problems to air. And when we start winning races in the state, we're a lot happier.
Charlie, same question. What are you going to do about the spicy quotes?
So I don't think it'd be, news to any of y'all that there's a lot of our leaders around the state, whether they're in the county committees or congressional districts or elected officials, that don't feel included in whatever it is that's going on from the state party. A friend of mine, Fred Waller, who's the mayor of Reynolds, Georgia, told me he's never got a call from anybody at the state party. This is a Democratic mayor. That's just an example of what we have got to fix. There should not be Democrats anywhere, any leaders, whether in the counties, congressional districts, or an elected office, that don't have an active connection with our state party, because they are the state party. That is what the whole point is, to get people like that elected. So we got to do that, but then we got to earn back credibility through our action. You can't just ask for it back. You got to have we got to do a top-down assessment of everything that's been done. What's bad, what's good, everything else, and then be honest with our voters, our volunteers, our county people, and elected officials about how we're going to improve it and do it.
Thank you, Charlie. Yes. Jay, same question.
Consistent, accountable, and reliable. All right, either one works. However, in our messaging, we have to make sure we stay focused on the task. We have to make sure that we're bringing the same message every single time. We have to not only bring the same message every time, but we have to make sure we find those people who we're not messaging to and bring them to the table as well. It's too many times we have this conversation and we're having it at a high level, and everybody who may not have access is left out. A lot of times, congressional district chairs are left out of conversations. And you would think that we would be at the top of the conversation. We're not always at the top of the conversation. So when you have to address the conversation, you make sure you take care of everybody from here all the way down to the bottom of the well, because that's the only way we can be consistent, accountable, and reliable.
Okay, this next question comes from David. To flip the state house, the state senate, and win statewide, we have to get moderate Republicans to vote for our candidates. What is your plan? Let's start with Wendy.
Thank you. Some might
say I was foolish enough to run for Congress in a really red district. But that dreadful woman moved to my town. And I thought, we can't let her just do her meanness and incivility and name calling and lying without standing up to her. And that because I was a two-term city commissioner and I had a reputation for getting things done, and I had to work with people from every walk of life and Republicans and independents and everybody, that I could find a path to get those Republican votes that are needed. You know, the one thing we keep messing up when we say Republicans are the devil because Marjorie Taylor Greene misbehaves badly, then those Republicans and those people who think they're Republicans or might be Republicans, stop listening to us at all. We have to be talking about issues and policies, not just name calling like they do.
Party, what's your plan to get moderate Republicans to vote for our candidates?
The plan is simple. It's to do what I did, state representative, senator, and as mayor. And that's talk about issues that matter to moderates. Our state's motto is wisdom, justice, and moderation. And we've got to talk about things that matter. People want to live in safe neighborhoods, they want to go to good schools, and they want to make sure that they've got good job opportunities in the communities that they live in. And that's how we get moderate Republicans to support moderate Democratic candidates. That's not what we're talking about right now. We've got to go back to those kitchen table issues that matter to every single one of us, whether you're in Baxter, Georgia, or in Buckhead, Georgia, whether you drive a Bentley, or whether you drive a Ford truck. Those are the things that matter to people every single day. Do I have an opportunity for good jobs to be able to work and live and raise my family? Do my kids have an opportunity to go to good schools? And do we live in a safe neighborhood where there's an opportunity for kids to play and to live their life and to worship their God? That's how we bring moderates back into this conversation, because those are the things that matter to all of us, quite frankly, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Jay, same question.
Bringing the conversation, first off, number one, there are too many Democrats that ain't even doing what they need to do. So before I go after Republicans, I want to make sure I bring all the Democrats back to the table and put those kitchen table issues to the forefront. Because we can win this election, and I ain't got to have a conversation without not one Republican out there. So I want that clear. But in order to do that, we have to be consistent, accountable, and relatable to get that job done. Because if we're not willing to do that, then we're not willing to be the best party that serves the people of Georgia. Because there are 3.9 African Americans in this community, in the state of Georgia. We need to go and be consistent, accountable, and reliable to them. We got disabled people that not getting any conversation. We got women not getting that conversation. There is too many opportunities for us to be consistent, accountable, and reliable to our own people before I go across the table and talk to somebody else.
Elena, what is your plan to get moderate Republicans to vote for our candidates?
It's sort of the same line of my brother back here mentioned that we have elected officials not doing what they're supposed to be doing in line with the mission and values of the Democratic Party. We have to hold elected officials accountable. We have to bring back training mechanisms, not just in the beginning when they're elected throughout, to let them know, hey, we need to bring you back. This is what you need to be doing in your position, whether it's a local official, whether it's state, or whether it's federal. And then you have to talk to the people and know what the issues are, making sure those officials are doing what they need to be doing. If we align with the same issues that some of the Republicans have, because it's people, it's the people party now. Right now, we see what's happening on the federal level, and people have concerns, whether it's Republican, whether it's Democrat. And if you have candidates that are aligned with the issues that matter the most, the health care, welfare, the being of people that are in this community, and making sure that we stick together and stand strong with the same message and being consistent, like you stated, then we don't have to go across the line. But we have to go across the aisle once we're elected and work with them. But when we have that message in place, then we'll have a stronger party.
Nikita?
I agree with Jay Jones, but it doesn't stop there. It's really simple. You just have to start talking to them. We don't just pick up the blue phone book and call Democrats and say, hey, we need you to show up. We need to talk to everybody in this state. One of the ways I got the numbers that I got with the money that I had in 2022 is because a group of Republican county commissioners reached out to me and said, hey, you know that guy who's on our ticket, who's fighting to be ag commissioner as a Republican? Well, he passed a bill, the Good Neighbor bill, that allows chicken processing plants to dump waste all over our farmland. And if you will speak out against that and let people know how wrong that is, we will stand behind you. And the farmers in my part of Georgia, out in Morgan County, said, hey, you know what? They're wanting to build this brilliant plant in our backyard. We can't compete with $15 an hour wages, and they're taking 7,500 workers out of our labor pool. So what I did was I did my research, I stood up for them, and I got their support.
Charlie, same question. What's your plan to get moderate Republicans to vote for our candidates?
I grew up in rural West Georgia in Harris County, and I got a lot of Republicans in my family too, so I got them mostly to vote for me in 2022. I got 49% in 2018, even though I was really the only one running against the incumbent, because we hammered Chris Carr on the issues that affected people's day-to-day lives. I had the smallest margin in 2022 running as a lieutenant governor nominee of any Democrat not named Raphael Warnock, because we hammered Burt Jones on the things that affect people's day-to-day lives. There is a false choice some people put that we have to either talk to our base, or we have to talk to swing voters, or we have to talk to soft Republicans, moderate Republicans, or whatever. That's a false choice. We got to talk to everybody, all those people, about the same things, because they all get up every day and they're worried about, is my kid safe? How are they doing in school? If I have a hospital bill, can I pay it? We answer those questions with a proactive plan about what we're going to do in people's lives. We'll win over voters in our base, swing, and moderate Republicans.
Nabil.
So I'm of the belief that we do not need moderate Republicans to win in the state of Georgia. We have enough Democrats here to swing our districts blue. And as long as we double down on our base and keep our messaging tight, because what happens is if we try to get Republicans to vote for us, we're diluting our message. We are not the Republican-like party, we're the Democratic Party of Georgia. I ran an organization during the runoff where we raised about $250,000 to target low propensity Black and brown voters. These are voters that we typically don't make jobs here. We've knocked on 34,000 doors in 2 weeks. 80% of those folks said that they would go vote. They didn't know how, no one had talked to them. We have voters. When Republicans were doing their strategy last year, you know what they said they did? They focused on low propensity Republican voters. They didn't go after moderate Democrats. They didn't go after moderate Democrats at all. We need to double down on our base, and we need to fight for our voters, and we need to make sure that our messaging is a Democratic message that speaks to our base. Thank you.
Okay, folks, I think this is like the 7th inning stretch, so if you need to get up and, loosen up a little bit. These last two questions are both around the theme of centering parts of our coalition that aren't ever centered. This next question is asking the candidates to identify what your plan is to meaningfully include municipal candidates and down ballot races in the party's organizing strategy. And let's start with Nikita.
Did any of you know that we actually have an elected position that serves in 6 different districts, and they are conservationists throughout the state of Georgia? And yet we never mention them. We never recruit for them. There was an African-American man who ran in a conservation district. He was a historical candidate representing Augusta, Richmond area, and he got less than 500 votes. When I traveled the state, he was only invited to about 2 or 3 places. The reality is, we have leaders in this room and across our state who know who the leaders are in their communities. Organizing and recruiting shouldn't just be the job of our vice chair. We all must step in and do it too. And when we do that, when we ask for those big dollars to come to our state, we need to make sure that those dollars get down all the way to the bottom of the ballot.
Thank you. Charlie, same question. What's your plan to meaningfully include municipal candidates and down ballot races in our organizing strategy?
This goes to what someone has already said about, we have a number of counties that don't have county parties at all. But a lot of those counties have Democratic elected officials. And I mentioned earlier Fred Waller, it's Taylor County, West Central Georgia, in between my hometown and Macon. That's a prime example. That's a Democrat that organizes there. Mr. Fred does every big election, and he'll do it till he's physically unable to do it. But he shouldn't be doing it on his own. We've got to make sure we are in touch with every single Democratic elected official all over the state, whether it's the municipal, the county commission, the general assembly, so that we're not reinventing the wheel every time a big election comes around. So that Mr. Fred ain't out there on his own going to his neighbors and saying, hey, you gotta vote for Democrats. They got your back, and they look behind them and say, yeah, Mr. Fred, they got yours. They don't need to be able to ask our local elected officials that question. They need to know that we're behind them, that we got their back on building that infrastructure for year round.
Thank you. Jay, same question.
Good question. Part of that conversation discussion has already been done. In the first congressional district, we reached out to Jessup, Wayne County. We reached out to different municipalities throughout the first congressional district, and we started getting people to run. And guess what happened? When people started running, people started calling James. And then I started getting calls from Gwinnett County about there's municipalities in Gwinnett County that we need to challenge the Democrats. I get calls from McIntosh County, we need to run people against those people. So the conversation is clear. If we're consistent, accountable, reliable, as far as everything we do within the party structure, people will find a way to those people who are making the way happen for others. There's an 80-city strategy. If we focus on 80 cities in the state of Georgia, and we get one person to run in all 80 of those cities, the Public Service Commission seat gets a 3 to 5% bonus push, because that's the year to do it, is to go after the municipal races to make sure we focus on the state races for Public Service Commission.
Thank you, Jay. Next question, similar, but slightly different. What is your plan to support rural Democratic county committees? Elena, let's start with you.
Thank you so much for that question. The first thing, as I've always stated, is you have to listen. I want to hold a town hall with those rural communities and hear what the problem is. Because just throwing money at them is not going to solve the problem. It's just curing the symptom. So we have to find out what they need, as well as be present in those areas, providing those resources, providing the boots on the ground to be able to get those people elected on the local level. As we stated, just to answer a little bit what the previous question was, your local level is more important right now. To be able to combat what's happening on the state level, your local elected officials have something called home rule authority, so where they can do ordinances and resolutions and so forth. I'm a former county commissioner, so I know the various things that we can do. It's important that we reach those local areas to make sure they are this information disseminated down to them, and that you have the people that are in place that are going to support the Democratic mission. My goal is to make sure to provide those resources for them, and also those candidates who want to run, who don't have the funding to back as their Republican candidates. We have to make sure we support those people who are on the ballot.
Thank you, Elena. Nabila, same question. What's your plan to support rural Democratic county committees?
So currently there is a urban-rural divide within our state party, because year after year, a lot of folks, we focus on Metro Atlanta, but we leave out rural Georgia. We can't continue to win elections without Democrats in rural Georgia. And it starts with our county committees. I want to make sure that we include them in our strategic plan. And also, I want to start a grant program. When I worked for the Florida Democratic Party, we gave out grants to our county parties. And I want to be able to do that in North Georgia, Middle Georgia, and South Georgia, rural Georgia, and give them the resources that they need to succeed. Also, we have candidates that run for office. Sometimes they're foot soldiers. They know they're not going to win, but it's important that we have Democrats blood in red seats because we expand the electorate by doing that. But those Democrats need help. They don't know how to run for office. They need financial resources. They need training on how to be a candidate. A fundamental thing that the DPG should have is a training for candidates, and I will make sure our rural counties are getting that investment for their candidates and their county parties, and I will make sure that investing in rural Georgia is a priority.
Wendy, same question.
Thank you. Now, y'all know I'm going to dip into that muni question, right? My friend and I were founding members of the Democratic Municipal Officials group in Georgia. Some people call me a municipal evangelist. You don't have to wonder what I'm going to do. I've been doing it. When I got elected in Rome as a city commissioner, which is like city council, it occurred to me that if we can get me elected, it wasn't something special about me, it was something special about we stopped thinking that nonpartisan means thou shalt not be partisan. Every rural county in this state has city elections that we can win. Count on it. How are they going to win? Teach them how to do better recruiting. Teach them that nonpartisan doesn't mean thou shalt not be partisan. Focus resources and energy there. I have. I've gone to counties. I've given my municipal speech. They made it work. I organized a whole North Georgia event about voter protection and municipal elections. That's the work I've done and will continue to do.
Thank you, Wendy. Hardy, what's your plan to support rural Democratic county committees?
Thank you. It's the same thing that we talked about before. We've got to run a hyper-local, year-round infrastructure in rural Georgia. Talked to Bobby Jenkins over in Randolph County just a few days ago. And that starts with us infusing resources into the local parties. There are 25 to 40 counties where we can create regional hubs in the state of Georgia that allow us to identify, recruit, train, and then deploy candidates to run at the municipal level. We've got to run people for sheriffs, county commissioners, city council, mayors, as well as judges, as well as solicitors and attorneys in each of these counties that then allow us to build this infrastructure so it's in place year-round, that then allows us to win legislative seats, turning that number to 29 and the 91 in the House, 29 in the Senate, that then will put us in a position to win statewide races from governor to lieutenant governor and beyond. Hyper-local, year-round infrastructure, identify, recruit, train local candidates to win from the bottom all the way to the top.
Thank you, Hardy. Okay, now we're at the point of the program where you get to ask the questions. So, if you're in the audience and you have a question that you would like to ask, just stand up, please. And we have microphones that will come to you. Okay, let's start with Donna.
Good afternoon.
And if you'll tell us your name and your county and then ask your question, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Donna McLeod, and I'm from Gwinnett County.
Say it loud.
For Donna McLeod. My question has to do with the fact that I'm a former state representative, and one of the things that we complained about was that the fact that the party doesn't come to the state representatives, which is people that represent districts and know the people there. And we know that in Clinton County, only about 90,000 people actually voted in the 2024 election. So it's utilizing the representative would be great. Not only that, a lot of the safer Democratic seats, by November, they have no challenger. And so they're not doing any kind of grassroots organizing. I would like to ask the candidates, how do you plan to utilize state legislators? Because they are useful, not just for running around the Capitol.
Hardy, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that question. It starts first of all with the state party being embedded in the legislative process. Not just at the beginning of the session, not just at the end of the session, but taking those candidates and establishing relationships with all of our Democratic legislators, both in the House and in the Senate. And it goes back to my conversation around 29 in the Senate, 91 in the House. Having those broad relationships so that as we're running races throughout the course of the year, you can deploy these legislators across the great state of Georgia to help down ballot candidates, not just at the top of the ticket. That's something that we fail to do consistently, as well as helping our legislators with a policy arm during the course of the legislative session. That's what we would do as your next state party chair.
Jay.
I agree with the question. Don, I appreciate the question. That question is a loaded question because we just should not be going after state reps and state senate, but we should be going after those people county committees put in place as well. Because all county commissioners, all people tied to the county go through the county structure. But to answer your question, that's easy to say in Metro. That's easy to say in Chatham County. But if you live in Camden County, there is no Democratic representation. So how do we make that happen? And we do that by, I call Derek Jackson. I call Representative Jackson. I call William Bodie when he was in there. I call those elected officials and they travel the state. It's about coalition building. When you don't have representatives in your area, we have to introduce those representatives in the area. And because of those conversations, we started having people step up and run for representation in those rural areas. So we have to make sure we're consistent, accountable, and relatable in what we do in our messaging.
Nabila?
So last year, I ran an aggressive mail program, knocked on doors, and I think we spent over $150,000 getting voters out. Our representatives and senators are the front line in our communities, and they should be organizing their voters to go out and vote. As a state party, we need to do some level setting with our state house and state senate, and tell them like we expect you to run an operation in your local communities because when you do that, it helps us get out more Democratic voters. It's a force multiplier effect. And so, and another thing I'll say is that the DPG, as DPG chair, I will have communication with our Senate caucus and our House caucus, making sure that we're on the same page, that we're communicating, and that we're in sync, and that we are also elevating and amplifying each other's voices. And I think that's very important.
Thank you. Okay, I want y'all to look out in the audience. I want you to see all the people that want to ask y'all questions. So we're not going to be able to have every candidate answer every single question because we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to move to the next question, but I'm going to commit to you. I'll make sure that we have equal time for the candidates, okay? Next, let's go to Chair Essence Johnson, please.
Thank you. So you guys talked a lot about electing Democrats, and we're not talking about those Democrats that might need to be unelected. If elected as chair, how would you address Democrats who are not standing up for democracy? Would you support the DPG in calling out or challenging Democrats who fail to defend democratic values?
Essence, you pick. Who do you want to answer this question? You get 3 people.
3 people. I'm going to do Charlie Bailey, Jay Jones, Wayne Davis.
Yes, I'm going to. But we got to do that with credibility. We've got to build up the credibility that we have lost so that when we go, and I go as the chair to a Democratic representative and say, listen, what you have done is out of line, it's got to mean something. They don't need to look at me like, well, who are you to tell me anything? That means we got to do all the other things we've been talking about tonight. We've got a big tent, and there's a lot of different opinions. I'm not saying we need to get involved in every single little issue, but when it's a core democratic principle, we've got to hold our own accountable. And if you're not representing, because here's the key, the whole reason for all of this is to fight for democratic values for the voters. They need people fighting for them, and so if you're carrying our badge, if you're carrying our brand and you're not fighting for those voters, you're going to hear from me.
Chair Johnson, I get in more trouble for the accountability message than anything else. Because I make it a point to hold folk accountable. Because we're not holding people accountable, then they can give us soft message, they can give us soft promises, and they can give us candid speeches, and then they'll do this famous line. Well, if you re-elect me, I'll do better. The best time we can handle those candid conversations is when they get on the ballot and remind them. But we have to be consistent in what we remind them about, and we gotta hold them accountable, and we gotta make sure that they're related to the constituency that put them in office. Because in the end, we're the ones that are ultimately responsible for who we elect. And if we continue to elect people in office, whether it be Democrat or Republican, and they're not serving the people, that's partly on our fault. For us to do better, we gotta hold them accountable to the clause of what they're gonna do for us.
Thank you. Let me start by saying, too many of our elected officials got elected without the party. We're mad at them, what does that mean to them? So we gotta fix that. We have to have a collaborative relationship for us to have power to hold people accountable. The power relies with the voters. So first and foremost. Second of all, we are not having conversations about what we want from those leaders. We've got to have those conversations. And if we have those conversations and say, here's our platform, you're a Democrat, you need to be holding up these values, it will be even stronger when they don't, because we were like, that's not what you said you were going to do. So we have power and a voice that way. And if we are doing the work where it matters, which is in those county committees, people are going to feel those empowered local leaders to believe them and understand them and want to be accountable to them too.
Thank you. Larry, is that you? I can't see from this far up here. Larry has a question.
Larry Lowe, DeKalb County. My question is related to values, communication, and messaging. What made you a Democrat, and what value drove you to be a Democrat? I get to pick three?
2 or 3?
Mr. J. Jones, Senator Nabila, and Ms. Wendy Davis.
Thank you, Larry. Can you just say one more time the values?
Yeah. What values made you a Democrat?
What values make you a Democrat?
Well, I come from a household of Democrats. My father was a union president for 30 years. My mother was a teacher for 30 years. They instilled those values and respect as far as being a Democrat in me, in the house. I'm fortunate to have 2 parents who understood politics. Not everybody in Georgia has that. There are a lot of people in this world, in this society, who don't have a structure where they understand how politics truly works. We need to build that structure with the Democratic Party. I think the biggest opportunity we have, if we had any opportunity, is we need to be aggressive with people who become registered voters. 30, 60 days after they become a registered voter, we need to find that list and we need to send our messaging to them so they can become Democrats. Because most people at that age, when they become registered voters in that time period, they're not identifying with a party. That's the time to take advantage of those opportunities and bring those into our tent so we can win elections across the state of Georgia.
My dad was part of the union, the NTEU, for 30 years. And because of his union job, it created stability within our family. Because, my mom flipped burgers at Hardee's. She worked at a warehouse until she hurt her back. The Democratic Party fights for workers. It fights for unions. And that's one of the reasons that I am so loyal to this party, because it's given my family so much. I'm also the daughter of immigrants. When I was a little girl, my mom told me, the Democratic Party, they're the ones that are nice to us. Because we don't villainize our immigrants, we don't deport them to foreign countries without due process, we show compassion. So that's another reason that I'm a Democrat. And as a woman, our reproductive rights are under attack, and we need to fight back. This is why, growing up, never did I think that I was going to lose my right and my access to reproductive health care as a 35-year-old woman. But these are the times we're living in now, and these are the values of why I am a Democrat today and running for DPG chair.
Thank you. Like my colleagues, My family had an enormous impact. My parents were actually a good bit older. They came through the Depression and were FDR Democrats. That's what my family was. My uncle, again, the generation is almost like a grandparent, but he was a member of Congress from 1960 to 74 from Northwest Georgia. Politics and Democratic work was in our family. But I was a little kid when he lost. It's not like I went and helped in his congressional office, but everything about what we learned was about Democrats take care of their neighbors. And I learned from my first involvements in the party. I did Steve Penson's race, and he taught me about unions in a way my family never did. It's about giving people a better life, and that's what we do. And what this party did for me is they gave me a way to serve, and showed me from a young person that there was value to my service, and we have to do more of that.
Vinny, do you have a question? Yes. Our vice chair for constituency groups.
Okay, those of y'all who know me know I'm a disability activist. I want to know, first of all, I don't think the party does enough to try to include people with disabilities in the party. So my question, and Matthew, can we make it a 30-second answer and let them all answer this? Can we?
Yes, we can do that. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is, as a party leader, because not everybody can say what you want, what have you done? What's your record?
Okay, so this will be 30 seconds. Everyone will get an opportunity to answer, and we'll start with Elena.
Thank you so much for that question. I actually have those who have disabilities in my family, so I'm around them every day to know exactly what they need and what they want. I want to make sure that all buildings are accessible to those who are disabled and all the needs that they have. Making sure that laws are put in place, speaking with our legislation to make sure that our disabled individuals are at the forefront, especially our disabled veterans. It's very important to include them in the conversation, as you stated, because we have excluded that out of the conversation. There's not many laws, there's a few that are dealing with disabled residents in the state of Georgia. And we have to make that put in the forefront. And you ask me, what have I done? I fight for them every day, all day. I am not a politician, I'm a public servant. And when I see a need, I go forward and make sure that need is met.
Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Sorry, I was in the 1 minute mindset. Nabila, go ahead.
So as a state senator, I have fought for more funding to help our disability community. I have fought for legislation to help our disability community and to prioritize access for our disability community. I would say as a legislator, it's been very important to uplift all of our communities and make sure that they're receiving the attention and the support, and I have been a fighter for the disability community in the state Senate.
Thank you. Under time. Jay, go ahead.
36 Field, number 1, Chattanooga Transit. When I was on the board of Chattanooga Transit as a county commissioner, I attended every single community meeting that dealt with disability. I didn't only attend, I made sure that any languages transferred at that meeting went to, as far as the board is concerned, and we had better service as far as busing, as far as routes are concerned, and all of this stuff like that. Disability is not just a handicap. Sometimes we forget about disability when it comes to healthcare. We feel about disability when it comes to access. And those points I have always been a firm believer in fighting on, and then I have no problem having an offside conversation to talk about those other points.
Thank you, Jay. Nikita.
My daughter-in-law was born with one hand. And for the past 4 years, she's been a part of our family. We've had active conversation about how do you hold your head high when everyone's staring at you, making you feel uncomfortable in the moment. And she stated that this has always been a part of my life. So I've learned how to adjust. I've learned how to accept people for who they are and where they are. I've been working with African Women's PAC. We're developing a program for farmers, disabled farmers. Just let me finish this, I keep my time. Disabled farmers to start businesses.
Thank you, Nikita. Wendy, 30 seconds.
I pushed the chair of the Democratic National Committee to add a disability council and then pushed to make sure it became a disability caucus. I've been a member and a supporter. I'm on the board of the Northwest Georgia Center for Independent Living that works every day to make sure that people who have disabilities have full lives and have the support they need. I have an American Sign Language interpreter on my Wednesdays with Wendy events, and my 30 seconds is up.
Thank you. Hardy.
In my administration as mayor, we had the first ADA coordinator for the city in its history. That individual was then fully funded to make sure that all of our government buildings were fully compliant. We then worked with our transit agency to make sure that our buses were compliant as well for those individuals with disabilities. And that work continues to this very day as we continue to not only build out sidewalks all across downtown Augusta so that individuals with disabilities can have full access to our city.
Thank you. Charlie.
Hey, quick 30 seconds. In both my campaigns, we had volunteers that were disabled, brought folks into the campaign to help make sure that we were accessible in our both our communication and our field outreach. And as an attorney in both the civil justice system and the criminal justice system, I've fought to get justice for disabled folks that either been victims of crime or those that have been injured through the conduct of others. I stood up in the courtroom and I stood up for them when nobody else would.
Time. Okay. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Not the best at going off the cuff, so I'm going to read it off a little bit. My name is Kyle from the south side of Metro Atlanta. This is specifically for Ms. Sanders. I'm going to be real with you. You failed to win re-election as the commissioner, and it was after one term. How do you respond to my concerns, and quite frankly, a lot of other concerns that if you can't do it on the county level, you can't do it on the state level?
I'm glad you asked that question, but I also would like you to research the candidate that actually ran against me and pull up the media and find out was that the correct candidate that should have seen in his seat, and that will answer the question. We have two federally indicted elected officials, commissioner and chair that was sat down by the governor that ran against me. So that lets you know the trustworthy and transparency. Being the first African American woman to sit on the board of commissioners and the only woman sitting on the board of a majority of men, you always get scrutinized. Being a woman, you always are told that you're angry when you're progressive. When you speak, they always come for you because you speak for truth and transparency. So because I got on that board and I held elected officials accountable, they came for me, and that happens. So winning my election where I beat a 12-year incumbent, that wasn't mentioned. I won an election beating a 12-year incumbent. My second election, that person that I just spoke about that was federally indicted and was trying to come after me because why I held the whole entire board accountable, and I would continue to do so. And when I left, I still became a public servant.
Thank you, Elena. Claire, do you have a question?
Claire Scheck-Snyder, DeKalb County. The DPG did not have an organizing director in 2024. I want to know if you as chair will have an organizing director in 25 and 26 and what you would expect that organizing director to do.
Let's start with Hardy.
I think that depends on whether or not we can fully fund it. When you think about the roles that we have, we've got 15 staffers. One of the things that we consistently talk about here is being able to run hyper-local campaigns in rural Georgia. We don't have anyone deployed in rural Georgia. And if we're going to win from the bottom of the ticket to the top, I think it starts first and foremost, can we deploy staff into rural Georgia and make sure that they're in place to help support these county parties so that we're building the infrastructure year-round. And so I have to start there first as opposed to saying, yes, we just need an organizer. That work needs to happen in collaborative fashion, and that's what I would start with first. 15 staffers, and the question of the day is everybody in Atlanta? And if everybody's in Atlanta, why? Because we talk about winning Georgia, well then I need people outside of Metro Atlanta in order to win Georgia.
Thank you. Nikita.
The answer is no. I believe we should take that money and invest it in our congressional district chairs. and give them the power to build the apparatus in their districts. They know their communities. They know the workers. They know the people who are just there for visibility. Let's put the power into our team, not at the top of our party.
Okay, Charlie.
I think any question about hiring is going to depend on, let's speak it into existence and say I'm chair and I'm there. I'm going to have to get under the hood and look and see what we got. What's the budget? What's our fundraising plan? How do we bring in money? What do we spend it on? To be able to project what we're doing forward. So I don't want to make a commitment to you that we're going to have this specific staff and that specific staff, because we got a full assessment top to bottom of the whole thing, operations and all staff, to see if what we got is the best thing we need. I agree with the thrust of your question. We need to prioritize organizing, and if I can make sure that we've got the money to cover what we've got to cover, then I think we can do both what you're saying and what Nikita is saying. I think we can have someone that is, you got to have somebody ideally that is at the hub, that is in communicating with all the folks around the state that are doing the work on the ground. So ideally, yes, but a lot of it depends on what we got there and how quickly I can get in this tremendous amount of money.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, yes, ma'am. You've been standing patiently.
My name is Tracy Fisher, Georgia Federation of Democratic Women, District Director, and I have this question specifically for Nikita. Having won a statewide primary, many people consider you to be a voter whisperer. With almost $0 in that budget, I would really like you to articulate how you motivated people to come out and vote for you.
That's a great but loaded question. Before 2020, no one understood the challenges of Black farmers. And the reality is, no one even understood that 52% of the farmers around the world are women. To be honest with you, the magic and the secret is just speaking everybody's language, seeing people for who they are, and actually listening, having two-way dialogue with the individuals you're trying to reach. And when they trust you, they'll invest in you. And when they invest in you, you must invest in them. That's why I believe that being the chair of this party, it's just not about having the right conversations or having the right answers, because truth be told, every one of these candidates on here are qualified. But the reality is, if we don't invest in people, if we don't recognize that our strategy shouldn't be one strategy, but 14 different strategies, because a farmer in North Georgia is not a farmer in South Georgia. And we have manufacturing plants all over the state. And we have people that are working in the...
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. She's fine. She can go all day. Yes, ma'am. You've been waiting very patiently.
Hi, I'm Melissa Pike. I am a state committee member.
Melissa, where are you from?
I'm from Cobb County.
Okay.
Welcome to my backyard.
We have a plan to vote on Tuesday.
I am not in District 2 or 4, but I will absolutely be driving people to the polls.
Thank you, Melissa.
The week in 2020, we won Georgia, and everybody rejoiced. And nobody had anything to say about our former chair. And then in 2024, we lost. And that very week, our senator came after our party chair. That same week, there was a lot of despair, a lot of disillusionment, and I had a lot of friends, especially Black women, who felt very disrespected and like they were slapped in the face. And they had basically said, go have it, have at it. The next election is going to be an off year. How do you plan to get these very disillusioned, and Black women especially, who feel disrespected, to be active for this party again?
I think every candidate up here is going to want to answer this, so let's do 30 seconds. Who would like to go first? Elena, go
I'd like to take that question first. And the reason why I would like to take that question first, and I wish the gentleman that was still here, that I could converse with him. As I stated sometimes that when we say that black women are always disrespected, we are looked at as individuals who are considered aggressive. We don't fall in line. And I've also been told because I'm educated that I think I'm too much. I've actually been told that. And so we are unapologetically ourselves. It's not our fault that we were given God-given talents, just like everybody else. It is not our fault that I seek education. I came from a family of educators, so that's what I do. So support black women.
Thank you, Elena. Charlie?
Black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party and have been for quite some time. We've got to earn back their credibility, earn back our own credibility with those voters, I think by showing that we're fighting for them, that we're fighting for their values, that we're fighting for their kids, that we're fighting for their grandkids.
Can we get John Ossoff to say out loud, in public, black women got me here?
I'm not John Ossoff, Melissa. You can ask the senator. You know, I think the senator supports black women. I think his record shows that, and I think we all have to come together and earn the respect of our voters with our work. And that's what I'll do as chair, is earn that respect. I don't take anything for granted. I don't presume a thing. I don't think anybody owes me a thing. I will prove with my heart and my work what we're about in the Democratic Party, and I think Senator John Ossoff does that too.
Thank you. Nikita?
I'm going to be honest with you, that's a yes. All of it. Because the reality is, when this party adequately supports black women, we raise the most amount of money, we turn out the most amount of votes, and we win, not just for ourselves, our communities, the state, and this party. In 2022, when I was an ad commissioner, no one stood up for me when Roy Barnes came out and endorsed my party. The Federation of Democratic Women tried to build a movement, and it was shut down from inside this party. So this party wants us to be a partner. Invest in us.
Congresswoman Nikki Williams deserves her flowers. We had historic wins under her leadership. And for black women that do not feel included because of what happened, we need to be including black women voices at the table. I mean, I'm talking about leadership, let's talk about staff. Their voices need to be centered. And I will prioritize that and have a diverse leadership and have diverse staff. Thank you.
If you know anything about the Democratic Party within the structure of the executive committee, me and Nikema Williams and Congresswoman Nikema Williams have had the most discussion when it comes to not sitting on the same plane. However, I have always been an adamant supporter of her. And I'm an adamant supporter of her not just because she's a black woman, because she's a phenomenal leader. Because we get too caught up in the characteristics of black and white, but you know what? She was a phenomenal leader. And I want it clear and understood that 3.9 million people exist as African Americans in this community. And that is going to affect the elections in 26 and 28. We need to start having those candid conversations. Not yesterday, but today.
Thank you, Jay. Wendy?
Thank you. Chairwoman Congresswoman Williams and I came up together, and she worked. I often joke with her that losing to her for first vice chair back in 11 or something like that was the time I've been most happy to lose, because she was there when our chair went to jail, and she had the capacity to leave her job to keep the lights on at the party. I wasn't in a position to do that. So I'm glad she was there, and I have been beside her and seen her work. The work of all of us. And we need to make sure that our internal dissent is in the family because of what it does. And they're telling me my 30 seconds is up.
Party? I support the King Williams. She's my friend, has been my friend for a very long time. She's made it clear she wanted me to make sure I got on the ballot, and she supported me doing that. But I want to remind every one of you in this room right here, we got here because of Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams didn't put the female place. That's a good place to play. Our Democratic Party would not have the infrastructure that we've had the wins and the gains, were it not for Stacey, and the King will continue that. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it loud, because they were Black women who helped us get to this point. We cannot lose sight of that.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we are way over time. I have kept this going because we have a lot of questions, and as you can see, there's still a lot of questions that folks want to ask. Our candidates will be available after this, but we have got to come to a close here so that Grace City can get ready for church tomorrow. So we are going to move into closing arguments, and we are going to go in reverse order, starting with Elena Sanders. 2 minutes.
The reason why I ran for this position, because I saw a need. I was actually sought out last year from abstaining my leadership and being able to hold this position. Newton County was the county that I came from where I started my electoral career, but I started at the state level. And I saw the disconnection between the state party as well as the local party with information being disseminated. I saw that your local elected officials were not being supported. I saw that your local members were not being supported, and they also would consult with the state level and not see responses. We have to make sure we have the resources for our rural areas to be able to elect those that are in need. We need to make sure we flip these seats. And the reason why I'm here today is because I have that experience to do so. I have fundraised. I have raised $4 million just for my community because I saw a need and I went out and did it. I'm not going to sit back and just watch and see what needs to happen. I'm going to go out and get it because I'm going to go get it. That's what I do. I don't want to give you fluff and promises and all those various things. If you look at my background, when someone asks me to do something or something needs to be done, I make sure that it is done. That's who I am. I am Elena Sanders. Thank you.
Thank you. Nadia.
I've enjoyed speaking with all of you tonight. Thank you for all your questions. Look, now more than ever, we need young people in leadership. Let's look at these successful state parties. We need people with voices like mine, because voices like mine are the future of the Democratic Party. My lived experiences reflect so many of the experiences of the folks in this room and of Georgians. And my candidacy is reflective of the diversity of this state. When I'm state party chair, I will make sure that we fundraise and we have the resources that we need to succeed. I've raised over $50 million for Democrats up and down the ballot, and I will raise tens of millions of dollars for our state party. I'm committed to doing that. I'm also an organizer. I've organized, I've fought, and I've won. And I'll make sure that we hire an organizing director, because we need one. How are we supposed to have a field plan? That's important. And also, we need someone that will speak up for the Democratic Party, that will be a voice for this party and isn't afraid to fight. And I have taken the fight to the Republicans, and I have the receipts to show it. Folks, the definition of, well, I'll say, Georgia is out of watershed right now. And we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We have to be bold and courageous. I'm State Senator Nabila Islam, and I'm humbly asking for your vote. And I promise I will fight with you and make sure this state turns blue again. Thank you.
I'd like to appreciate everybody from Cobb County and the surrounding areas who participate in this conversation, because we need to have more conversations like this. Not wait for a leader to actually come to lead us, but we should be having these conversations all the time. There is an existing structure. That structure is the congressional district structure that already exists. It's 14 leaders across the state of Georgia that already exist. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. All we got to do is empower those people to actually lead. Within that structure, you have 159 counties. Those 159 counties feed into those 14. All we got to do is empower those people to lead. We have an executive structure. All we got to do is empower that executive structure. That structure is already empowered to lead. We already have the tools in play. We just got to work together to make this thing work. Consistent, accountable, and relatable. We have to meet our people where they are. Whether it's at the kitchen table having those hard conversations, or whether it's in the boardroom trying to get money for the organization. We have to make sure we're taking care of all Georgians. Not just some, but all. Because I'm telling you, I may not live in rural Georgia, but I represent rural Georgia. And rural Georgia feels that they have been forgotten at the table. And if you want to get 100,000 votes on board, have those conversations with rural Georgia. I'm the person who can sit in the seat and fix it and fuel the car so we can ride throughout Georgia and make it a better Georgia. Believe in that conversation as I believe in everybody in this room for making sure you attend. And if you need any information, my name is James J. Jones. I have the flyer. I'll make sure everybody in the building gets it, and I'll close at that point. Thank y'all for coming out.
Thank you, Greg. Nikita.
I entered this race two days ago. And part of the reason I made the decision to enter this race is because in listening to the candidates, everyone has great ideas, but most importantly, I don't hear you at the center of those ideas. I believe that the best talent is already here in Georgia. I believe the grassroots organizing is already here. No one's mentioned the fact that we have amazing organizations that fund our campaigns, that get out, organize, support, raise the voices of our community. We've got to stop looking for the answers outside and go within. And we've got to find our voice to understand that we're one voice. We're Georgia. And when we understand that everyone gets included, we don't have to play identity politics because the identity is one. This is the party of humanitarianism. And we don't stand by and allow people to be treated as if they only matter at election time. We stand up and we fight for people every single day because those people are our neighbors, our friends, our children, and our grandchildren. My name is Nikita Hemingway, and when you elect me to lead, my service will be dedicated to elevating you, raising the next generation of leaders, and giving you the best opportunities in the state to turn Georgia blue. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been a great opportunity. I hate that we haven't spent more time talking about this year-round organizing that we have found some amazing agreement about. And yes, we've got to have an organizing director. And I'm happy to talk to you about how we need it to be different than what we've had. Because what we've had wasn't about the foundation of our party. We think in either or. We've got to start thinking both and. The only way we create one Georgia, a fully engaged party all across Georgia, is by understanding we're all in this together. It's not metro Atlanta or rural counties, it's both and. And we don't need it to be a small set of people making the decisions or doing the work. We've got to broaden it. We have the structure to do it. This is a new chapter for our party, and we have to do things differently. Y'all don't want to get between, you don't want somebody telling me that our county chairs shouldn't be the ones leading and the people with them, because you don't want to see that side of Wendy. We've got to do that. We've got to be getting together. On my 4 C's, we've got to convene. We've got to be meeting together. Not just the leaders, but we've got to start with the leaders and then move to where we're convening with voters where they are. We have to reconnect, connect, collaborate. We've We've got to be working together, y'all. We can't be working at different purposes. We all have to be moving forward. And some people said, don't put care down on your list of your C's, Wendy, because guess what? We've got to care about each other. We have to show people we care and that they matter, and that starts within our very own party. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Artie.
Thank you to Essex Johnson and the Cobb County Democrats for hosting us tonight. I'm Hardy Davis, candidate for chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia. I walked this road as a state senator, state representative, and as mayor. I fought for working families, raised the minimum wage in Augusta, Georgia over $15. But what matters most is what's in front of us right now. Georgia is not just a battleground state. Georgia is the firewall to democracy. That same energy that I brought to every elected office that I've had, I'm going to bring as the next chair to every city and every county. The challenge before us right now is to move beyond personalities to focusing on the people that we say we represent, first as a Democratic Party, and reminding the people who we are, what we stand for, and who we're fighting for, and then making sure that we're focused on counties and not consultants who tell us how to run national races instead of running Georgia races. That's where we are. That's why I'm running. And I'm asking for your support tonight and on May the 3rd to make sure that we move our state forward and make Georgia blue again. Thank you.
Finally, Charlie Day.
The Republican Party's been in charge of this state for 22 years. In the last 12 years alone, 12 hospitals have closed. Right now, of our 30 rural hospitals, 18 of them are at risk of closure. If you look at the metrics that measure our kids' educational opportunity and attainment, we are last, second to last, third to last. We've got a bunch of Republicans down at the General Assembly that have a tax code that rewards billionaires and big corporations at the expense of working people, that rewards whoever the latest lobbyist is to buy them a steak dinner and a burger. The people of this state, and I'm sorry for being in church, but the people of this state have good cause to be pissed off. And it is our job as Democrats, and it'll be my job as your chair, to give voice to that and tell them who to blame. We're going to do that every day, hammering these Republicans in the press, across all mediums. We're going to do that in these races that we talked about spending millions of dollars in to flip seats so we can get control for what? Not for the sake of winning, but to get power to do something for people. We're going to do that every day to build back our county committees and give the folks fighting on the ground in their communities all the support they need. My name is Charlie Bailey. I have spent my career fighting for people to be able to get justice. I am proud to have the support of almost 100 Democrats from around the state, the vast majority of which are state committee members. If you trust me with your vote and you make me your chair, I will bust my butt every day fighting for the dignity of working people, fighting for the justice that they deserve, and fighting for working values and democratic values. Thank you very much.
Democrats, let's give it up for these candidates. They're going to stick around for a few more minutes to answer some of your questions that didn't get to be asked. Before we leave, I want to say, first of all, on behalf of the Democratic Party of Georgia, I want to thank all of you for being here and thank you for tuning in. This video will be available on YouTube. For those people that missed this, you can refer to that. I want to say a huge thank you again to Grace City Church, the Cobb County Democrats, the 4th and 11th Congressional Districts, our DEI Committee, and the Veterans Caucus for co-hosting this event. Remember that you can go to our website, georgiademocrat.org/DPG election to find information for our next 2 forums next week in Toccoa and Statesboro. You'll also have the links there to RSVP and to submit questions that will be asked during the forums. And finally, for those of us who are here in person, I want to just recognize a couple of candidates that I saw in the crowd tonight. 2 of our Public Service Commission candidates, Daniel Blackman is here in person tonight. I also saw a representative from Alicia Johnson's campaign in the back. We also I saw 2 candidates for treasurer in the room tonight. Joel Alvarado and Daniel Coley are both here. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Okay. Oh, right. State Representative Bryce Berry. Thank you very much. We appreciate him being here. Thank you all very much. And hey, Cobb County, make a plan to vote on Tuesday.